Hello, this is John Miller, the creator of this podcast. Now, the rest of Everest is probably the most in-depth look at just what it takes to climb the world's highest peak. But keep in mind that it is a series. And if you're checking out the podcast for the first time, do yourself a favor, go back to episode 0 and watch everything in order. That's really the right way to enjoy it. Thanks so much.
Hey everyone, John Miller here. Just a few updates and announcements before we start this week's episode. First thing off, I wanted to remind everyone that Ben Clark is still on his spring expedition, trying to climb Annapurna 4 and then ski down it. He's with his friends Tim and Josh, and the team is currently at base camp. And they are just waiting for a weather window so that they can go for the summit and then again ski down. It's going to be pretty cool. He's been sending photos back and writing dispatches to our website that we've set up. And there's also a couple of audio dispatches from Ben so far. You can see everything at annapurnaiv.com. That stands for Annapurna 4. And follow along. There's a lot of really cool stuff there, and it's happening right now. The other thing I wanted to mention is I got contacted by a viewer. Her name's Jill Gutman, and she is going to be trekking to Everest Base Camp in November, and she's going to be dedicating that trek to her sister-in-law, who unfortunately was diagnosed just recently with stage 4 gastric cancer, and it's even spread to her liver. So she's going to take this trek that she already had planned and again dedicate it to her sister-in-law Debbie and try to raise $29,029. That's the height of Mount Everest in feet, for the Lance Armstrong Foundation, and that's to support cancer research. And I thought I'd just mention her website that she set up in honor of her sister-in-law. It's trekkingfordebbie.blogspot.com, and you can kind of read through it and see what's going on, and you can make a donation to the Lance Armstrong Foundation to help Jill, reach her goal of $29,029. I made a donation. It's really easy, it's fast, and check it out and support Jill, because it's really important what she's trying to do. Speaking of donations, Lobsong and his donations have tapered off, and just wanted to say thanks to everyone for contributing whatever you did. That was just fantastic. You can still donate anytime. Just go to therestofeverest.com/lobsong, and it's really easy to make a donation for him. I'm going to be calling him right after I record this and transfer a little bit more of the donations. Have to only transfer $150 every week, and so far the total is well over $1,100. So you guys really came through for him. And don't forget, if you're interested in potentially joining Chris Marquardt and myself in 2009 for an Everest Base Camp trek, sign up on the website, everesttrek2009.com, and you can get on the list to make sure you get all the information when we have it. Also, don't forget to poke around the site. There's a lot of information, including a frequently asked questions section. So please, again, check out everesttrek2009.com. Rest of Everest t-shirts are still for sale. I have a whole bunch left. I get new orders every few months from Kathmandu, and I wanted to show you guys this picture of Jeannie and Bud. They're from Lexington, Virginia, and they bought some shirts, and real fans of the podcast. Really want to thank Jeannie and Bud. I want to thank you for sending that picture in. I really appreciate it. And I also want to let people know that I did get a few patches made this last time that I placed an order from the embroidery shop in Kathmandu. Patches are $15, and if you're interested, go ahead and email me, john@therestofeverest.com, because I only have a few of them right now, and there's no way to buy them right off the site. So again, $15 for those patches. I think that's it for the announcements. Again, remember to check out annapurnaiv.com and trekkingfordebbie.blogspot.com, and that's it. So now on with this week's episode.
This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 81, Shegar, New Tingri.
Hey! Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm John Miller, joined as always with Scott Jacobs. How you doing, Scott?
Doing well, John. Glad to be here.
My voice might be a little bit raspy this week. I apologize for that if it bothers anyone. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Hopefully it'll keep up through the episode. But this week's going to be pretty cool. We get to go further into the less, let's say, civilized areas of Tibet and get to see a little bit more of what it's like in the country. Most of the journey in Tibet so far has been in cities, and this is where things really start to change because we are actually getting closer to Everest, and in just a few weeks' time we will actually be at base camp. Well, in any case, let's get right into this episode, and let's head up to probably somewhere around 15,000 feet in Tibet. So here we go. Alright, so we have left Shigatse at this point and are heading to Shegar, otherwise known as New Tingri. And all along the road there are these gangs of workers doing all of these repairs on the road. And you'll see the road isn't always paved. In some sections it's paved, but I believe here it's actually just dirt.
We crossed a lot of dirt roads. I do remember that. It was rugged, going washboard. But most interesting, I found large piles of rock and basically just road building supplies strategically placed along the roadway. So I guess these guys were out there spreading it across the road, making it passable.
Yep. Obviously, here's a paved section. So I think as you go through some of the little towns, they'll pave sections of it since there might be a little bit more traffic right there. But it really is kind of out in the middle of the wilderness. And a lot of those workers, actually, I'm guessing they set up camp and they'll work on a section of road and they'll just basically live out there, not necessarily commuting to work or anything, but they'll set up some tents and they'll have a little kitchen set up and everything. But you just got to keep in mind this is all at high altitude. Alright, so this is part of our scheduled entertainment on the drive. Lobsang had this CD, this Tibetan pop album. I think I've mentioned it before, but he really enjoyed it, and he was constantly listening to it. And he and Younglaw, our driver, both would listen to it, and I think he's got one of his earphones in his ear, and then the other earbud of that pair is probably in Younglaw's ear. And they'd spend all this time just singing and listening to this music. So we're actually higher than 15,000 feet.
Still kind of mind-blowing to think we're traveling across a highway at 16,000 feet.
And that it's not just a scenic viewpoint road. It's actually really going somewhere. This road takes you all the way to Kathmandu. But this is a pass. I'm not actually sure what pass this is. Do you remember, Scott?
I don't remember. Are you talking historically? I don't remember that historic pass.
But you can see that sign up ahead, and that's going to be the high point on the road for this pass here in this saddle.
And it's also walking you to Chomolungma Nature Preserve.
Exactly.
So this is the gates of Everest, or at least the gate along the highway.
Yep, into the national park. Almost 17,000 feet.
You could feel it. You would walk around, and I remember being deliberate in my mobility. you're breathing just a little bit harder, even though we're acclimatized. We're acclimatizing, and but still, you move around a lot. You would get a little bit out of breath.
It's kind of misleading because, we have to spend so much time in the car not moving. And so you think, you feel totally fine and everything. And then you get out to go to the bathroom or something and you have to walk away from the car and, yep, you feel it. Were you pretty excited to be getting up that high?
I was very excited. 17,000 feet. That's just, it's milestone after milestone on this trip. 17,000 feet is just amazing. Only the beginning for some, but pretty good. Pretty good for me. I love these prayer flags. Just weathered. Been out there for seasons, I would imagine, and new ones added each year, each trip.
You got to take care of business when nature calls. But actually, this was actually not good of me to do. I didn't realize that I was being ignorant, but I should have gone further away from the prayer flags to pee, and that was truly a mistake on my part.
It's difficult because you drink so much water and so much tea to try to hydrate because the altitude just takes it out of you. That you're making frequent trips.
Yeah, that's true. So this is in our little room in Tingri. Okay, we are now in the little town of Shegar, which is also commonly referred to as New Tingri, Old Tingri being the town that we tried to acclimatize in back in 2003. And even though it's New Tingri, it feels a lot like Old Tingri. This is the first of, well, this might be our only night in a guest house, in one of these tea houses, but they are pretty rough. I mean, comfortable, no big deal, but it's usually the toilet situation that is the problem. And I'll show you the toilets in just a bit. Old Tingri might have been a little bit better, simply because the hotel we stayed in was probably the cheapest one in Old Tingri, and it had an outdoor toilet. Had one that was, well, you guys probably remember from the show. It was rough, but it was outside, and this one is enclosed, which means that during the day it kind of cooks. So now get my sleeping bag all set up, and because it's been in a compression sack, we want it to loft. Loft is good. Let's see. But yeah, these are little rooms, and just about the same as in Old Tingri. And in fact, this little hotel, the guest house we're staying at, really looks like it's all the same. You drive in through a gate, and then there's this courtyard, and all of the rooms are on the courtyard. But the one thing this place has, at least is intriguing, that Old Tingri didn't have, is there seems to be some sort of new construction on the end of the courtyard with two locked doors. One is for men and one's for women, and might be showers? I don't know, we can't get into them, they're locked, and our room key doesn't work. But on the ceiling there is, our driver just peeked in, he's like, "What are you doing?" Who are you talking to? On the ceiling are, on the roof of that new construction are some solar hot water heaters, so who knows? Might be able to get a shower and kind of wipe all the grime off you from this place, but I'm gonna get some shots of town. Those women right there were carrying ashes from the stove in the kitchen, and they were carrying them to the bathroom and putting them down the drain, not the drain, but down the toilet, which is just a pit. This was a really, really nice afternoon once we got to Shegar. Could hear me breathing hard there.
I can. Blowing off carbon dioxide.
So, Scott, you went all the way to Tibet to read Les Mis.
Victor Hugo. Yeah. I did. I expected to read a little bit more on the plane. But, yeah. Finished it in Tibet. Quite an undertaking.
There's that mysterious new construction that we still never found out exactly what it looked like in there.
I think you're right, though. I think they were showers. I think a little bit of modernization is coming to Shegar.
There you go. Yeah, this is very classic construction for these guest houses, as they all look alike.
You know, one of the things I found interesting, you'll see there were little tea lights hanging outside the room, and I don't know if you noticed the bare bulb hanging inside our room, but generator powered. So it's not like you flip the switch and it turns on. So the generator runs for just a couple hours in the evening time, and of course shuts off overnight. So you get up at midnight, it's dark.
This is the street outside the hotel. I'm actually, the hotel's behind us, and I'm looking across the street there. And, you know, just, I guess if you want to say signs of progress everywhere, there is always something being built in every one of these little towns. Here's the garbage patrol. That's just got to be a difficult life. You can see how windy it was just even in town there, you know. There's just not enough buildings to provide much of a wind block. And it really
was cold.
Yeah, it was.
It was cold. We're below 17 at this point, but I just remember being thankful for the Yakdong stove in the tea house. Every time you'd walk in, you'd realize just how cold you were.
Really shows here the importance that tourism has to the region, because there are these billboards everywhere, and it's, you know, obviously everything is pretty much centered around Everest. That image, that line drawing of Everest has become very, very iconic in the region now. You don't need to know what it says, you just need to see the image, and you know it's talking about Everest and the Chomolungma Nature Preserve. I like how it says supermarket right there.
It's a glass showcase with some sundries.
Now that is one decked out animal. I think this horse here or mule was there to bring some of the construction materials into the building that they were constructing right there on site. But I tried to get up a little bit closer to it, and it was just like, that's close enough, buddy.
It would shy away.
Yeah. wonder where they get those signs printed. Those they're just huge. I don't know if they do it in Lhasa or not, or if they have to import them from China.
Yeah, I'd be curious. They might do them in Lhasa. It's a large enough city. But they seem to be pretty standard along the highway, so I imagine it's a government contract.
This guy was so nice. Once again, just, showing how friendly the locals are. Just always interested in what I'm doing. And I just really like showing people what I'm doing. And it's just really nice to make these little connections with people. And it's pretty cool. But next week, we're going to look around the hotel a little bit more. And there's actually some really cool things that are going on inside the tea house, and it's actually quite comfortable. So we will rejoin our little trip next week, and we will continue to get closer to Everest. So thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks, John.
And we'll see all of you next week. Bye. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywu.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.